Hello everyone, I'm Triconator, you may call me Trico, and welcome to my hotel. On today's schedules we have Leaders and Dragons Building Allies. Let's begin. So if you might have learned anything about Dungeons and Dragons is that you need a Dungeon Master and players that have very different roles in order to play. The Dungeon Master needs to describe all the chaos and obstacles that are happening for the players to try to overcome, just as the leader of your company has to explain what the current challenges are so that you and your team can find a way to solve them, work on them, and do whatever makes you successful as a company. But there's a very interesting thing that happens in Dungeons and Dragons that most players have encountered in one way or another. And that is that the players and the dungeon master sometimes don't feel like they're part of the same team. Sometimes they feel like they're opposites, like they're hostile creatures to one another, because the dungeon master has to explain or has to roleplay the part of the angry dragon that's trying to eat the group and attack it. It's the obstacle. But at the same time, the dungeon master wants the players to be successful. But you can't just describe, oh, it's just a tiny dragon. No, you gotta make it a big, tremendous obstacle so that when they actually defeat it, it feels earned, worthwhile. But if you overdo it, the players feel that like the dungeon master is just trying to make them fail, because the dungeon master is describing obstacles and obstacles and obstacles. So a good dungeon master will give you a gigantic hurdle to overcome, but at the same time will really celebrate when the players are trying to do that. So you as a leader in your company, you have to be not just a boss that keeps telling you, well guys, now you need to do this, that, and that, because then the players, or your team in this case, will feel like you're only throwing problems at them and you're not really helping them. But maybe it is not your role to solve the problem for them. Maybe that's the whole system that you already have in place, and it makes a lot of sense. That's how companies are run. But you need to make sure you're just describing the obstacle, you're not trying to describe a failure for them, because sometimes dragons can be intimidating. Sometimes the problem or challenges that your company is facing can sound impossible, and more often than not, it may be a little bit overwhelming. But that's when you as a dungeon master need to put yourself in the front lines as well. And what the players also need to understand is that if the challenges are there, they can choose to tackle them, or they can choose to retreat, or they can choose to face them in creative ways. And voila, that is the main objective that you want to have. You want to have that environment where they bring creative solutions. So, as a dungeon master, you do this not only by role playing the dragon, but also helping role play NPCs. NPCs are called non-playable characters, which come not just as a dragon, but also just as a guard, a policeman that's from the town where you're trying to overcome. They can also help. In this case, what I mean is that the players or the team members of your team can also come and say, okay, I realize that the challenge is this, but can we rely on another QA department, training department? Can I ask for help? Can I lean on others to tackle this challenge? Yes, you can. That is when the dungeon master has allowed them to be so creative that they start recruiting more people to help them. So to further kind of explain this point, I'll give you examples not only between Dungeons and Dragons, but on other type of play games as well. There's games like League of Legends and Dota where you actually are not playing alone. You have other four members, different roles and different criteria based on the game that they're trying to help you. But these players are usually just automatic teams. You don't choose them, you just trying to queue, and four other individuals randomly pop up and they know what to do more or less. So you can choose to play the game just expecting the other four players to know what to do, or you can try to influence them so that they become a better support. AD carry, mid, top, jungler, whatever the role is, you can try to be a leader even when your task in the same team, because a good leader doesn't need the position to make an impact. And that is why you, even if you're not the boss, you should see if you can talk to the other team members and see if you can influence the way they play the game. Because if you don't, then you'll be stuck in a position where you're going to be part of a team that could be very toxic, that could be very selfish, that could be one of those teams that really does not help one another. And if you ever played League of Legends or any other MOBA, you know that there are a lot of players who will not do anything else because, hey, they're only in charge of one role. But if you truly are a leader, then you can be a leader across everything. So just because you're not the boss doesn't mean that you couldn't motivate your team, organize them, or push them into the direction that you need to. You can definitely do that. And the best example I can give you to that is that when you try to see professional play from League of Legends, you'll notice that the support is more often than not the one shot calling, the one that is saying what to do. Because if you're in the support role, if you're a little bit more laid back, you can see the whole screen and you can understand everything that's going on. And maybe that's what you need to start directing others, not because they need to listen to you, but because they would be benefited if they would listen to you. And the best example I have actually found of teamwork online and leadership from people that don't have to listen to you, but they want to listen to you, is World of Warcraft or any other MMORPG, where if you go up to the late game, you are never going to be successful if you try to be a lonely player. If you try to do things just on your own, you will fail. Because this is a game, MMORPG, massive multiplayer online role-playing games. And if you want to someday be successful running a whole company, then you should at the very least be able to handle a team of players to do any task that you want. And since you're not paying these other people, these other members of guilds or communities or brotherhoods, whatever you call them, then why would they listen to a word you have to say if you're not the leader or the boss? Well, it's because you can convince them that if they listen to you, they will also be successful on their own goals, that your own goals and their goals match each other. That is the magic of leadership. And that is what building allies is all about. So in World of Warcraft, you have to work with 24 other individuals or however big you want to make the raid, and you are going to talk about strategy, you're going to be talking about roles, you're going to be talking about performance, you're going to be talking about a lot of concepts. And you might think that, hey, that doesn't sound like a game, that sounds just like a job. Well, you will have no idea just how many thousands and thousands and thousands of players do this because they want to be better. And that is something you must always know about your allies. Your allies want to win, dude. They also want to be successful, but they sometimes don't know how. They're frustrated. They're waiting for someone to open the door for them. And honestly, that doesn't happen that often in the professional world. So take all my advice if you want to. If not, you can just leave it there. But notice this. If you want, or if you struggle as a leader to get your teams to work with each other, to have initiative and leadership between themselves or with you, and you are paying them, then money is not going to be enough of a motivation for this generation. If you need to be a leader for them, you need to treat them like a game. You need to treat them like you're not paying them at all, but you're still the one that may not have all the answers. But if they collaborate with you, if they're willing to shake your hand and just pretend to be brothers or part of a guild, a brotherhood, a team, then, and just then, can you actually make your allies into your coworkers, right? You can actually get them to work with you, not because it's beneficial to them in a financial way, although it's definitely a good point to make, but because you can make their own personal goals, whatever they are, a reality. as long as they can trust you and you can trust them, then it seems almost like if you were on the same level, even if it's clear that you're not. So that's pretty much the subject for today. I'm sorry. But building allies is very important in a game. And if you want to defeat a dragon, or if you want to run a company, then you should listen to a thing or two that I say. And if you're not, then, well, you can definitely disagree with me in the comments down below. Remember to leave a like or a dislike. I am open for both. And that is our time for today. Thank you for staying in Hotel Trickonator. I hope you will make us proud. Have a great night.